Hi, it's Alex. I'd like to take a look today at Matthew 25:34 to 36, particularly as an example of how the relationship of series can work out sometimes. We think of series as a coordinate relationship, it's very simple, and yet sometimes it's not quite as simple as we'd think. And so I'd like to give an example of that here in Matthew chapter 25. Let me read this together. Matthew 25:34 to 36. Jesus says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.'" So this is the first part of this parable that Jesus is giving to his listeners, and Matthew's giving to us here in chapter 25 as the readers, where the king is laying out those who are standing there in the judgment in Matthew 25, separated into sheep on the right and goats on the left. And how would I break this down, first of all, now that I've read over this passage, into its specific propositions? So I would take this first proposition, "Then the king will say to those on his right," as the first proposition, verbal assertion that's set off by itself. And then I would take everything that he says into separate propositions, probably an idea and explanation relationship here. And we have the first two propositions here in the first sentence. "Come, you who are blessed by my Father." So there's an invitation immediately. "Come, all those of you who are blessed by my Father." And, I think is implied right here, he's inviting them to come, and he's inviting them to inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So I would take that as its second verbal assertion. I don't think we can divide off "from the foundation of the world," because even though there's a time element there, there's not a separate verbal assertion, I don't think. So I think we just have two verbal assertions in that first sentence. And then we have the word "for" in this last sentence. This is all one sentence. "For," so probably a relationship of ground to what's come before. But this is where we have a series of propositions. "For I was hungry," and another proposition, "you gave me food," comma, probably another proposition, "I was thirsty," and another proposition, "you gave me drink," comma, "I was a stranger," and "you welcomed me," comma, "I was naked," and another proposition, "you clothed me," another verbal assertion, "I was sick," and "you visited me," "I was in prison," and "you came to me." So a series of propositions here that we could set off, each in distinction to the other. So let me show you how I wrote this out in its various verbal assertions in all its propositions here. In verses 34 to 36, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry.'" And then we have this list of series here. "I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." So where do we begin if we're going to arc this this passage together? I would begin at the beginning and just kind of follow my eye as we go through this list of propositions. So right off, what I said before was, I see this introductory statement, "The king will say to those on his right," is kind of the main idea of this paragraph, followed by what he says. So immediately, if we draw our line down here on the left side, and then put our arcs over each proposition, then we can immediately identify 34a as the main idea, and the rest of what follows as the explanation of that idea. So I can label that explanation, and I can put that all under one arc. We can, when we're arcing, start from the bottom up or the top down, and here's an example of a place where we can immediately identify the main thing that's happening is that this idea, the king is going to say something to those on his right, and then in 34b to the end we have what he has said in two sentences. So we can go ahead and mark that off, that relationship. Then we need to work within 34b and 35 and 36 to look at the relationship between each of the propositions here. So we can take this first sentence in 34b and c and look at that together. Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the earth. So I see a simple series that's living right here between proposition 34b and 34c. He's inviting them, come, you who are blessed, and inherit. So he's inviting them to come and to inherit the kingdom that's been prepared for them. So right there, within that sentence, we have a short series. And then we have a much longer sentence here in 35 and 36. And again, all one sentence here. And it's led off by this word for, which when we first read over the passage, I said that it probably points us to a ground relationship right here. So we can keep that in mind and come back to that. But we have a series of propositions, and in that way, not just a simple series, but really a series of couplets, which is very plain to see. I was hungry, and you gave me food. This is an idea that's coupled together, two propositions coupled together before moving on to the next couplet. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. And so I think the structure, even though this is definitely a relationship of series, that we have a series of couplets, so we can draw that out with our arcing. We have a series of couplets here. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. A series of couplets there, of propositions that are coupled together, and then we can look at the simple relationship between them of series as well, because all these couplets are set in series to each other. And we can draw one arc over the top of that series of couplets. All one sentence, a series of coupled propositions. Hunger, thirst, stranger, naked, sick, in prison. You gave me food, you gave me drink, you welcomed me, you clothed me, you visited me, you came to me. And that takes us back then to this word for, to consider this relationship right here between 34c and 35 and 36. For I was hungry, which points us to the relationship of ground. So I can label this whole series as a ground to the invitation that had come before that. Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. On what basis is he making this invitation? On what basis is he making this invitation? He's making it on the ground or on the basis of what he says here. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. It's these actions that were taken, these seemingly faith-filled actions taken toward him when he was hungry, thirsty, a stranger, naked, sick, imprisoned. You welcomed me, and now I'm going to welcome you into the blessings of that my Father has prepared for you from the foundation of the earth. So this welcoming is the basis then that the king says in this parable that he is welcoming these people. And of course then the response comes, because we've read on and we know this parable, when did we see you? hungry? When did we see you thirsty, a stranger, naked, sick, and in prison? And the king says famously, as you did it to the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. So even this relationship right here points us down to verse 40, where the king answers, as you did it to the least of these my brothers, you did it unto me, which then raises the question, who are these my brothers that the king is talking about that has led to such a magnanimous welcome as the king is giving those who were seated on his right here? And that's just an example of how I would arc Matthew 25, 34 to 36 here as an example of series that's not always as simple as it first appears to be, and yet can give us some insight into the internal structure and the meaning of the passage that we're dealing with here.